Here are 6 wide receiver sleepers in your 2025 fantasy football drafts. We're starting out with Keon Coleman of the Buffalo Bills. Keon Coleman is rising in ADP, but he's still outside the top 50 wide receivers. Keon Coleman as a rookie was disappointing. 556 yards, 4 touchdowns. But remember this, Keon Coleman suffered a wrist injury. We found out later it was a chipped bone in his wrist, so he never had a chance when he returned from his injury. It was not a factor in the offense. However, before the injury, Coleman was starting to come on weeks 4 through 8, averaging 64 yards and 4/10 of a touchdown. It was going on for Keon Coleman. He was starting to improve as an outside receiver for Josh Allen. A couple downfield shots, some red zone action. Keon Coleman is still easily the best outside receiver this team has, and expect Coleman to make a big second-year jump. While you're getting him late in drafts, he's going to end up outperforming that ADP because, again, he's playing with that elite quarterback, and it's a team that's going to have to score some points to win ball games. Next, Christian Kirk. You could get him normally outside the top 55 receivers in average drafts. Now, Christian Kirk, yes, last year was disappointing. Injury luck has been a problem for him over the years. Last year, he played 8 games, 14 missed games over the last 2 years. That's not the greatest thing, but remember, this is a very cheap draft cost. Now, Christian Kirk is in Houston with the Texans. Early reports are that he has a great rapport with CJ Stroud. The role in the middle of the field is going to be very, very needed. We saw Stephon Diggs on a 1,000-yard pace last year before suffering a season-ending ACL. Christian Kirk did very well with Trevor Lawrence in the slot in Jacksonville. Christian Kirk is going to be a factor in this offense, and I know they drafted Jaylen Noel in the 3rd round. Kirk was traded for. It's the last year of Kirk's deal, but expect the veteran to keep that role all year, and in PPR, he may be a gold mine at an almost free cost. Next, Cedric Tillman of the Cleveland Browns, going just outside the top 60 receivers. But if you're in a really, really sharp league, you may have to reach up well beyond that because some people are really getting on the trail of Cedric Tillman. Cedric Tillman is a 3rd-round pick from a couple years ago of the Browns. And last year, when the Browns traded Amari Cooper, Tillman moved into the starting lineup, and it was beautiful. Those first 3 games, averaging 7 catches, 85 yards, and a touchdown. He had a bit of a down game before suffering a season-ending concussion. Tillman did not have good quarterback play in Cleveland. May not be good again. Be better if Joe Flacco played, but even not. Tillman's already shown he can get it done with weak quarterback play. So all that said, starting outside receiver, clear number 2. Very physical receiver, can get downfield a bit. Cleveland will have to score points. Cedric Tillman is a great, great option later in drafts. If you're enjoying the breakdown here, take a second to hit like and subscribe. It helps RotoWire keep that fantasy advice coming your way. And if you want even more of the RotoWire tools, rankings, and insights, 15% discount just for our YouTube viewers. You go to rotowire.com, choose your subscription, and you use the code YouTube15 at checkout. All right, next, sleeper wide receiver, Hollywood Brown, going around wide receiver 58 in drafts. Hollywood Brown was supposed to be a big deal for the Chiefs last year. They had plans for him. Xavier Worthy was supposed to be the downfield guy, Rashee Rice, the underneath player, but that middle area of the field, 2nd level behind those linebackers, that was the plan for Hollywood Brown. Get his speed going across the field. Give Patrick Mahomes weapons at all 3 levels. Well, Hollywood Brown did eventually make it back from that sternoclavicular injury super late last season, but he still had no opportunity to become a factor. Well, this year, he may not be a target monster in this offense because Rashee Rice, Travis Kelce, and Xavier Worthy are going to get their targets. But if you're in a deeper league and you're looking for some depth plays, there are games, especially in those games where you're projecting Kansas City to be in a shootout, Hollywood Brown is going to have some weeks. This is a player you may want to target late in your draft. And of course, if the Chiefs end up having injuries at the wide receiver position, Brown could become even more. Next, we have Wan'Dale Robinson of the New York Giants. Did you know that Wan'Dale Robinson had 140 targets last year? And in 11 games, he had at least 8 targets. Now, the yardage wasn't great, 699, but 93 catches. And if you're in a PPR league, that is incredible value. Now, Wan'Dale Robinson has gotten a little more expensive over draft season, but he is still going around wide receiver 64. So that's super late in drafts. But if you need a player, fill in for those bye weeks, step in for injuries, and you just need PPR points, Wan'Dale Robinson's your guy. Because still, even though the Giants have some great players in their front seven, this is a defense that's going to give up points. And they have a brutal schedule this year. So they're going to have to throw the ball often. Wan'Dale Robinson, even as the third receiver, remember last year, he was playing over 75% of the snaps. So he is on the field regularly. So all that said, yep, wheels up in those PPR leagues. Finally, Jayden Higgins, Texans' second-round draft pick this year. Now, Higgins steps into a role. Nico Collins is going to command a lot of attention and stretch the field. And we also earlier talked about Christian Kirk in the slot. But look, Houston's going to have to throw some possession routes on the outside. And Jayden Higgins is a good ball winner. And that's exactly what CJ Stroud used here, that physical presence on the outside. Jayden Higgins, he's a little more expensive than some of these other players, about wide receiver 53. But Higgins should have a good floor of targets as that possession receiver. And of course, remember, every year, Nico Collins seems to miss extended time. And if that's the case, Higgins is not going to be a Nico Collins type replacement, but the targets would go up in that scenario.